You didn't go?
No, I'm zooming in. What? I told you that.
Leanne said you should not eat rye bread,
I should what?
not eat rye bread. She said, it's good for you, but it could be aggravating your stomach.
It doesn't. Oh, I said, try it. I didn't go. I said, I'm gonna zoom in. I told you that earlier.
Let's go.
Right. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. After that, so first thing is public hearing. We're opening, so anybody who is out there who wishes to speak in the public hearing for shared service plan, call 315-294-8051. 315-294-8051. All right, minutes to approve for October.
Move them, Lucille.
Second, Florida.
Any questions, additions, whatever? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, no appointments, so we'll move on. Carl, you have no. No, we have no updates. Okay. Kyle.
I've known the item already before.
Okay, do they got any questions for Kyle? Okay, thanks, Kyle. Gary.
Okay, I have my report. There's just a couple things I'd like to comment on if I could. Ask me any questions you like. Under the buildings and grounds administration part, item 4, Don Carr and I are working on the electric gas supply bid to get a resolution ready for December. We did have a bit of a surprise. One of the vendors notified us that the price is changing already. And so he was going back after that and saying not for anything, but we did this for a 2-year period. Don't want to change it now. The reason I mentioned that is the remote possibility, if it looks like we're going to get into some kind of a problem where the prices are going to continue to go up right now, we might want to try to do an emergency resolution for the. I was just going to process it for December because it shouldn't be a problem, but that's looking into it, talking to the vendor now. I don't know the outcome to that. Another addition to the list, I'm working on trying to help out with the parking issue of mental health. And last but not least, I'll be on line tomorrow for government apps for GO 7 through 12. Those are policies for buildings and grounds, highway and parks. And I'll be available to answer questions online. If anybody has any. Other than that,
So I guess I got a question, Gary. As far as the emergency resolution, what do you suggest, like monthly or?
well, what I'm suggesting is if the low
What are they
bidders-
telling?
if the low bidders are going to raise their price if we don't move quickly, I think we should move quickly. Very like that. I did talk to John Mantle about it. He recommended the rates that they had provided to lock in for the 2 years like we did 2 years ago, which is why we're even now enjoying that low price that we've still got. The prices are basically going to double, just about double. You got the numbers right there.
That's right. Anybody got anything else for? You want to do your resolution, Gary?
Sure.
Yeah, but not me. I can't get that.
Parks Commission on increasing parks and trails facility rental fees. What I've just passed out. What I just passed out is kind of a spreadsheet that lays out where we currently, the proposed rates, the percentage increase from year to year, what the current rates are, and then a couple of, and the one that is was the subject of an email that went out this afternoon, specifically referring to the Deauville Island rental. We rent the entire island at Emerson Park, the entire Deauville Island. So we want to just take across the very top line. It shows the Deauville Island, the rate increase. The suggested rate increase this year is to go to $1,500 and a $500 deposit for a total of $2,000 per day per rental. That's a 33% increase over the previous rental, which was $750 rental plus a $750 deposit, totaling $1,500. You can make the numbers read any way you want. These are an increase, and the reason they're an increase, if you look at the second table down below, this just kind of lays out the daily rental fee. So if we were to charge currently $1,500 a day, just the staffing alone that we have on for a lot of these events, they're broken out by hour, and then like, for example, it says that there's an 8-hour day, so it's the third column in the second table at the bottom. If we rented Deauville Island for $1,500, we put in about $600 in security every day. That's for parking and for traffic control and for access on and off the island. We put 2 cleaners on. There are some administrative hours that are associated with each one. Those are just direct hours there on site. And then, you know, as we talked about at the previous meeting, this year alone, we charged $700 a day just to haul trash. So based on the cost that we put into these, although it's not a profit-making entity by design, I think it's important to note that at next year's rates, all of those total revenues on those days are negative numbers based on the revenue at $1,500, which is not what we're currently charging. We're currently charging $750. And then we're adding on, I'm just putting the staff hours. I'm just showing the staff. That does not include O&M. That does not include any maintenance, repairs, or really any overhead, utilities and things like that. So as I look around at the facilities that are there, there's a little data down at the bottom just for some statistics if you're not familiar with it. That property is about 31 acres. It contains its own 2 shelters. There's a bathhouse, a bathing beach, the seawall. That's all included in that current rate, which is $750 a day. So the rate hasn't changed. Years, I would say, at least. And obviously all of our expenses have, as we've added over a mile of pathways to the island, it's become a more attractive facility. And as we have paid more and more for all the just the staffing to do what needs to be done to manage those events, the Parks Commission's thought was that a lot of these rates need to be raised. The suggestion a couple of years ago when we had Freedom Redevelopment Ventures in is that we're a promoter to come in and do a ticketed concert. Obviously, those are, you know, their suggestion was $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 per one of those events. Those are larger in scale than the events that we're currently operating. So there's a scale question there. But as we move forward, and as the Park Commission has looked at this, they just don't think that what we're currently charging is sustainable going forward.
What is considered a day?
Oh, thank you for bringing up. That's a great question. So a day right now would be an operating day. Day would be when there was an event going on. We have traditionally, it doesn't impact the rentals and other shelters, not charged any of our events for all the setup days and the days afterwards. The day is the actual event day. We start setting up for the Great Race 5 days ahead. You know, we start setting up for a lot of the events that we were talking about today. You know, we'll take shipments in, we'll have equipment coming in for days before. We don't generally charge for those days, as long as we can still rent the shelters that are out there, still operate the beach and do the things that need to be happening, you know, out there. There are many facilities that will charge full rate or half rate for those days, even for setup days. So we right now are only charging for a day that if you had an event going on, the day you publish, that's the day we're charging for. And I'm not suggesting we change that, because I think it's worked out very well in the past that we've allowed folks to come and set up tents, put up porta potties and do all.
The costs in the second grid the security cleaners, admin and dumpster service. Is
Sure.
that only when it's rented or do? Okay.
Those reflect that event day. So in other words, I don't have extra staff on setup days.
Right.
So those are just who would be on them. I don't have extra security on the days that we set up. It's a little more of our time, the staff that's there, but I don't include that. I'm just trying to keep that discreet to who are we bringing in on the specific day when that event's happening? What are those costs?
Actually, to make this right, can we move this for discussion? We have that.
Oh.
PWs. So,
Move it. Second, Basile for discussion.
okay. Dave, you had your hand up. first.
Yeah, we got an email today from Ed Lozinski or whatever his last name is from Rotary Club.
Yep.
You were CC on, right?
Yep.
He was complaining and the Rotary Club was complaining about the blues concert that they have usually every summer for 3 days, I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Correct.
And he said in the email went up 300%. That's not right. It's going up 100%, isn't it? Not 300%.
So the daily rental rate is gonna go up about 100%. So it'll go up from $750 to $1,500.
So he was talking 300% over the 3 days, probably.
Correct, and something that is of note is that would be assuming that they were paying for 3 days, and they currently don't. They're really paying for 2 days currently, so they're not being charged for setup or tear down days that they have. Besides.
But he did say 3 in the email, right?
Correct.
How many days are you charging? I'm sorry. How many days are you charging? I read that email. So what is their increase? You said-
Last year's contract was for 2 days, and so it would have been $750 per day. So it would go to $1,500 per day. If you want to just leave all the deposits out, because generally speaking, we've been returning deposits. So we're going from $750 a
So
day to
double.
$1,500 a day. So
That's
last,
Jim,
And so I sit on the Parks and Trails Commission, and we've been bantering back and forth on this because we're losing money at the park. And we still have to do maintenance and stuff. At a minimum, we should break even. And we've also suggested to Doug that maybe event people pick up they make the dumpsters and stuff. Because we never know how much trash there's gonna, we might plan on one dumpster and there's 4. And we're picking up the cost for that. And when I say we, all the county taxpayers are. And we don't charge for parking anymore. That was a discussion as, we gotta get some, you can't just keep running this piece of property without having, especially with the use it gets, without offsetting some of the costs for these extra events. Literally, I could go get 9 of my friends and pay $75 a piece and close the park down for a day. For 10 of us, $750. We could sit in the middle with lounge chairs and drink beer out of the cooler. And not let anybody swim, so if someone's renting the park for the day, there needs to be an adjustment. And I'm speaking of my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole Parks and Trails Commission, but it's been a lot of discussion for the past 4 or 5 meetings.
Heidi first.
I was just wondering what your perception is about the 100% jump in terms of what's public facing. For instance, this email that came from the Rotary Club, how much resistance do you anticipate, and how do you think that might impact usage?
sure.
It's 100% jump.
Right, the suggestion from the park commission was 50% on all of our other shelters. This one just reflected the additional costs that are, this is specifically only for the rental of the entire island because of the costs that are incurred from that, so. I mean, at that point, it was, the other side of the equation was, what's the cost that we're putting out, and is that sustainable from day to day? I mean, any increase is something that's going to be unpopular. Anytime you increase a rate, it's going to be unpopular. The flip side of that conversation, which has been had, as Jim has mentioned, for the last several months at the Parks Commission, is this responsible? Is it fiscally responsible to continue to charge that? And as I mentioned, when we looked at going down the road for promoters for some of the events, I mean, the suggestion there from the Beaver redevelopment group is that we should be charging several $1,000s for this facility that we get. I am not advocating to go there. We're at this stage right now. We're at this step right now.
Christina, then.
I agree. I think we can't be running out our space and be losing money on it and it costing us to host people there. Have you looked at, I know this is something we're working on at the museum, is when we rent out our facilities, depending on what it's being rented for, is a different kind of cost. So set up for hosting a concert costs us a whole lot more money
Sure.
than when somebody just rents our space and conducts a Zumba class. So have we looked at perhaps having a scale based on the type of event that they're, so because of, like you said, our time that goes into it, could that be something that could be put out there?
I think you could. I think you also could probably segregate sections of the island. Say it's not a rental right now. The only thing that's in our inventory to rent are the shelters in the entire space. And those are the only rentals that we're currently processing. So I think there are probably alternatives in there for doing that. To do sections of the island. One of the big questions that we're going to have going down the future is we develop a large destination playground out there. Is can you put that kind of fence? And that's something that we have had discussions with the Parks Commission about, like, if we rent the entire island right now and I have a $2 million destination playground out there, am I not charging commission to get to that playground?
Because somebody's essentially owns that island today.
Doug, can you do me a favor? Ed's got this misconception that it's going up trip. Can you do me a favor? Can you email him back or better yet, call him?
Sure.
And let him know that it's $4,500 is way off. He said that for 3 days. Because now it's only 2 days, so it'll be $3,000 in 2 days. Right, not 4,500 for 3 days because they're not there.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Could you let him know that just so we don't lose at least in the summer and try to explain to him if you want me to be with you?
No,
I'll be glad to, whatever you want to do.
if you'd like to, that's fine, but I'm perfectly happy calling that. We have great.
And you know that, and you will.
Yep.
If just to satisfy him a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Doug, just to,
Aileen,
oh, thank you. Just to confirm, so they rent the event is a 2-day long event or no?
It's flexed in the
Okay.
past couple of years, but it's generally been like Friday night event and then Saturday, so those are 2 rental days.
Okay.
So
I'm
that's
just
what I'm
confirming that not one of them is a setup and take down. Okay, so technically then it could be 4 altogether, but we're not charging for setup and take.
saying. Correct. We
Okay.
have not traditionally done that. And again, I'm not suggesting we do that
Right,
for the reason that as long as we can run an operation. That we would continue.
gotcha, just want to confirm that.
And I don't know legalities logistically or what have you, but Ed Alinsky and Bob Edmonds has a concern, otherwise they wouldn't have sent anything, right? If the Rotary Club is an organization that is nonprofit, if there is any special consideration that can be given to nonprofits, as potentially something.
I mean, ultimately, that would be up to the body, that would be up to the legislature, but traditionally, we have only had 1 rate, 1 rental rate for everything existing right now. All of our facility rental rates are only.
Understand, but that was 50%. So
I'm
just
sorry.
that was 50% ago, right? If we're going 100% more than what we've been charging. So just something that maybe can be considered.
Yeah, we could set up any pricing scheme we wanted, generally speaking, there's an equity question of who gets charged what. So that's
That's what I
know.
meant by legally and logistically.
A lot of times there's one rate for a lot of facilities. I mean, facilities will charge off rate days, so it'll be different on a Thursday than a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, but I will tell you that most of our reservations are on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Those are your prime rental days. I think that's why there probably hasn't been a call previously to have any other tier of rental.
Trish,
I'm just curious, do you have a sense of how many people go to that Rotary event?
I mean, I'd have to ask Ed for specific numbers, but I think that they list 1,400 to 2,000 people.
So it'd be like $1 a ticket extra to cover that, or not even if they're already paying.
And I'm just remembering off the top of my head, but that's, yes, I know what you understand what you're saying, that that's the number, and that's where that's about where you would plan.
I definitely understand their concern, and I think Lydia's suggestion is interesting one to consider in terms of a non-profit rate for a community event versus a private, wedding or something like that. But I was just curious about renting the whole island.
Mhm.
And when somebody rents the whole island, does that cut off access to the public beaches?
That's correct. So what we normally do is we move our lifeguards from the beach on the island over to the beach in front of the pavilion.
So, we've heard some good suggestions here, and the Parks and Trails Commission can take up maybe a tiered cost for the off days or not profit. The problem that we run into, what happens is you go 15, 20 years without changing something, and then you're behind the 8 ball. Instead of just tiny little increases every other year or something like that.
You want government to work fast.
What's that?
You want government to work fast.
Well, this is a rate sheet. It's something that can be reviewed every 2 years by the Parks Commission and say, okay, are we still in the ballpark or something? But it sounds like an ugly thing, but you can't, I know we're not in the business to make money, but we should not be in the business of giving it away. You got to maintain this beautiful park. We took away parking, well, how are we gonna get it back? We talked about event tickets for the theater. We don't charge for the theater anymore. Maybe having things that are in the theater, or if a concert comes, we ask them to put $5 in or $2 in on the ticket, which they give to the county to supplement not having to pay to have a parking person there. It's already, you go to any concert somewhere, a lot of times when you pay $60 or $75 for a ticket, there's a parking fee in there. There's a fee that goes to the vendor that supplies the venue, it's all incorporated into that ticket. The island itself, think about $750. 20 years ago, that was probably a lot of money, but today, 10 of us, like I said, rent it for $75 a piece, close it down, no beach, no playground, we could run around and have a grand old time, and nobody's allowed in there. That's.
Maybe I got one more. If you don't mind.
Brian's got one person.
Honestly, I didn't go there as well. I'm sorry. I think the tier program pricing makes sense on, just my opinion, on the weekend, on the weekdays, but I'm a not-for-profit guy, so I support all not-for-profits. In this particular case, you're almost losing money, even if you got lots of non-profits renting it. You still, the cost is the cost. So I think that I really think I'm supportive of just being consistent in pricing, and like Jim said, possibly have small increment increases rather, because it's sticker shock. Jim, you said on the board, you said?
Yes, I.
So there's a lot of communication about raising, but the public didn't know it. So if in Ed's defense, he's paying $750 for ever, and all of a sudden it jumps overnight, and it's got to be sticker shock.
Yep.
I do think that we got to be consistent with not-for-profit because the price is so low, and we're not making money. So if we were for profit, we can make those adjustments because we would have. But I think the price is low enough where Jim has a point. I've had a lot of events here in town, and we rent the Hilton, and you're not too far away from the Hilton. It's a better place, a better location, a bigger space. So, I understand the challenges. I think that we just really should concentrate on being consistent and maybe changing during the week a little bit lower in case somebody wants to rent it. That's just my opinion.
Dave,
Yeah, my last comment, but I think that Hidden Lily came up with a great idea, the not-for-profit. Maybe just a thought that the commission can look at that. But we gotta remember this blues brings in people from all over the Northeast.
Yeah, that's.
And they stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants, they buy our gas. So we've gotta be careful. I don't know how you differentiate, I really don't. That's up to the commission and you, Dundee, but we gotta think of the other part that these people are coming in from the Northeast and spending a lot of money in their account.
Christina.
Just a thought.
I want to piggyback on something that Jim had actually brought up, was like the dumpsters, how much they're using, that's gonna make a difference. So could we perhaps pull that out of the rental kind of fee and make it a standalone item that they have to pay whatever their dumpster fee is? So if they create 6 dumpsters and they pay for it, but if you only make 1 dumpster full, that's all you're paying for, so that it adjusts itself out that way a little bit.
And in regards to the email you received today, that is a newer event, and they actually do pay that cost already themselves.
Okay.
But it is not across the board the same, because we just have different needs for different events. So there are many municipalities and facilities that have basically a la carte fees for everything from electricians to treasurer.
My question was on the trash removal. Gary had just said that that's supposed to double next year. Is that factored into this price or no? This is-
Those are the prices that we did this year.
Alright,
Which were
okay, so-
double from
so
last
it could
year.
go up. So they could go up to 14.
That is because we're running out of space up here with garbage because we're taking so much from New York City. Like it or not.
So to all those points, we'll take them back to the Parks and Trails Commission. But I think we need to establish this pricing for now so we can get going. And in January, February, we bring something else back, a tiered pricing. It could change before next summer with some of the suggestions. One of them was to take garbage. If they say, well, we don't know how to do that, we give 3 garbage company numbers to call. Here's who you call. Make the arrangements. They know where to put the dumpsters. Get out of the garbage business. Get out, some of those things that we don't need to be in. And then that's $1,500 will last a lot longer, go a lot further. So I would ask that we approve rate changes as shown now, but make a commitment to right after the holidays to revisit some of the things that were suggested by Lydia or others. Garbage, we talked about that, so.
And that has been a conversation with the Parks Commission pretty extensively on, should there be tiers, should we be charging a la carte? This kind of grew out of after the sticker shock of us looking at the cost versus what we're charging for rent. That's kind of where it started. That's where that conversation started. What are we charging right now today? And how do we make up some of that deficit? But there could be more complicated pricing scenarios out there that we could look into. And obviously the Park Commission is very sensitive to the fact that, these are increased costs on our park users. And it is not the intent, obviously, that should be the detriment of any of the events that are currently used in the facility.
My last question. Oh, Jim, I love it. No, I'm agreeing with Dave a little bit. Is it possible some particular that bring in a lot of people like this event to be grandfathered in, and the impact that the tax dollars will have here? Is there some type of session for like what Ed has going on? Because the impact is going to be way more than $750 or the double, the $1,500 double that he's paying. That people will be spending money in our community.
I mean, ultimately, I think that would be up to the legislature and maybe the county attorney could weigh in on something like that as far as the change in the contract and how you, retroactively or grandfather in what organizations that would be. I mean, that would be something that
Okay, everybody else.
I couldn't answer.
Aileen,
So I don't sit on this committee here, but I'm on the Parks Commission, and I'm curious if we hold off on this resolution now until you went back to the Parks Commission. It is the downtime of this year. You didn't have to make a decision tonight, and then we can talk again and bring a recommendation if we wanted to structure. I mean, you can go back with these reactions.
Yeah.
But that's just not sitting on the committee. So
I was gonna take the last one after I let all of you have your questions, and that was part of what mine was. I was gonna say, since nobody's gonna be renting it when there's 2 foot of snow on it, maybe in the next few months, maybe this would be a good resolution to bring back in January after the Parks Commission has had a chance to discuss some of what's been discussed tonight. But my only other thing I wanted to say was we need to be consistent, whether it's profit, nonprofit, whatever, because you got to remember, if we don't cover the costs, the rest of the taxpayers in the county who aren't using it are making up that cost also. So we got to keep that in mind too. I mean, I get the whole, well, people come to this event, they're buying gas, they're staying here. Well, the person who lives where we live that never uses the park shouldn't have to help the bill because we're not charging enough to cover our own costs.
And just so everyone's aware, we obviously haven't done any contracts for next year. We don't know what rates are going to be, so we have all of our annual events, all of which you are all familiar with. So we haven't done any contracting for that. We haven't done any contracting period for next year. A here going forward.
So my question to this committee is, do you want to, we can go ahead and vote on this tonight, or does anybody want to table it?
I would like to table it so that we're voting on something that's finalized, not saying we're gonna come back and change it again.
So you're making a motion.
Make a motion to table.
Christina, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Rich, any discussion on that? And we, I guess the only discussion I'll say is, can we, you will be having a Parks Commission meeting this month and next month.
November, December is combined, those will be one in the beginning, the first week of December, so there will be another one before the,
When will there be one in January before our January? meeting?
it'll be right before, it'll be the day before, the day, actually, no, the January one is probably the day after the January legislative meeting. So there will be one in December, the first Wednesday in December, we'll have the combined November, December one, we can revisit this at that point.
I guess worst case scenario, if you don't get anything done, then this can be brought back in February, which we're still not gonna.
But we'll try to get something to the January side.
And any other questions or concerns with the? big one?
Yeah, just one question, I guess. There's a bunch of different pricing for shelters. Is that based on square footage?
Yeah, this is the size, there are unfortunately not all the same.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is different size, so it kind of goes down with square footage.
Okay, I was just curious about, because it looked like some were increased, some were doubled, others were time and a half, or whatever. I wasn't sure how that was. But, yeah, I appreciate your work on this.
Sure.
All right, so all in favor of tabling PW7?
Aye.
Aye.
All not in favor.
All not in favor?
No.
Where were you, Brian? Oh, you said aye. Hans, you're not?
Against.
Hans, Jim are against.
And add one more thing. We got a number of phone calls early in the late last week, sorry, about a property I actually originally was contacted by Jenny Delicato about a county-owned property up off Beach Street Road. We've had a few calls from the environmental conservation officers, some of the sheriff's deputies have been called up to the property about hunting very close to some of the property lines. Behind there, we do own a section of property basically between Beach Street Road and then runs up to the city dump property. So that gives you any frame of reference. At the time, some of our law enforcement partners have reached out to us and said because there's no posting there, they really didn't do much about what was happening on the property. Some of the hunting was supposedly done within the 500 feet of the homes and against some of the regulations. And they've had some challenges there. From an enforcement standpoint. So at the time, some of the homeowners that were there asked some of the property could be posted behind there. So we did a little bit of that along the back of those properties at that time. Since then, I've received about a dozen phone calls of folks who had trail cams, tree stands, and several things stolen from there, stolen out of that section of property. So obviously there's quite a bit of issue going on there. I had a conversation with the sheriff. I also had a conversation with Mr. Westfall about the needs of like what that county-owned property is. This is not a parks property per se, but it is a county-owned parcel. The question came down to Jenny Delicato, and then it came to me, and so we're having a bit of a discussion right now between the county attorney's office and ourselves. And like I said, I have included the sheriff in that conversation to see if there's anything that we can kind of balance, trying to keep law enforcement informed and give them some tools to work with, as well as our local landowners around the facility, and then sitting together landowner. And so as I said, I've gotten several phone calls about that property, most saying that there's it's like the Wild West in there, and they really don't understand why there's more control over it. And so this is kind of broadened into a larger conversation about county, but like I said, I appreciate council's input on these as we work through the challenges that we have in that property, and I may extend to others. But just so you know, if you have any constituents who are reaching out to you about that property, that's where it stands right now. And because there have been so many issues in that area, we went ahead and posted it, and we can do that. That's the feeling of the body at the time, but there seems like there've been enough law enforcement calls and enough issues in that area that we have a significant issue on.
And what do we do with that property?
It's just in our inventory. It runs down the Bosco River, they held that from the lake. And it's a long contiguous piece of property that's there. It's just a county owned property. It's not.
Because I know some in this building don't like when I say it, but we own too damn much property that we do nothing with it, that we ought to be selling and we can put back on the tax roll, and we wouldn't have all this issues. Lydia.
I have the other side of that. Going to bring that up tonight. Where I've had constituents say that we have been hunting that land. There have been no issues. It's just a matter of people not liking hunting on that land. We are respectful, we are responsible hunters, and we're being treated unfairly. And without warning. And the question is, why are we posting it and can we not post it? I always get to play the other side.
And ultimately, it's going to be up to the body. I mean, there's a lot of these properties around town. But we don't say anything. There's no rules.
These constituents were hoping.
Any,
Dave.
yeah, Chris or Brett, is there a liability here with the county owning that and hunting and not being able to sit or if somebody gets shot on that property?
Not in those circumstances, but danger that you're aware of. Or you don't make it known, or for example, a big hole where you know that people are walking, there's liability there. Not on the hunting side.
Right.
And in fact, I think Mr. Duckett will remember, when we bought 2,800 acres from Rochester Gas and Electric. I think we split it in half and allowed hunting on half of it. Another half was, I think, designated for the nature center.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Hank.
Anything else? Doug?
Nope. No.
All right,
Good job, Doug.
moving on. To Brian.
I just like to answer my report. Road repair and registering the both of them.
That's it. Okay, just ask any questions for Brian on anything that he's got in here.
Brian said, over, I ain't gonna work here.
Well, that was quick compared to Doug, so you know, I had to ask. So who's the one town that opted out? Here's- you, okay.
10 miles. 10 miles of road.
Wait, so does anybody got any questions for him on his report before we go to the resolution? And if not, go ahead with the resolution.
Res PW2, PW3, PW4 are all medium equipment operators, snowball operators. Scheduled to retire.
They're retiring next one.
Yes.
All right, so I'll offer PW 2, 3, and 4 as a bundle.
Who would, second Basile, so we're looking at these resolutions are gonna fill this.
And just out of curiosity, do you think you could get a bill before they retire?
Trying to plan a path. So when they retire.
Any questions on the bundle of 2, 3, and 4? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, PW 5.
PW5 is authorizing us to enter into our contract with Onondaga County. Allow 0.37 miles of East Bruger Street outside the county.
Motion.
Move it, Basile.
Second. Second, Hans, any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Got a question for you. Who does the turnaround down at 3-7? Get on the county line. Whoever gets there first, that's her done.
We don't allow 370 anymore.
All the state took it back.
And they took that back.
Okay. Well, then Onondaga County plows it first. Just guessing. right, anything else for Brian? Okay, if not, Chris, what are we supposed, I mean, Geo 1, Geo 11, 12, are we supposed to do something with that, or?
No, I would, Mr. Peters is, I'd say go ahead and just pass.
That's for discussion, only just,
I don't know why.
that's what I was wondering, so policies for discussion only, they're Geo.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Yeah, government offices looked at policy and they were interested in Brian's explanation.
Brian didn't change anything in those policies, just changed the format, and upgraded the format. Actually, your office upgraded the format.
Okay.
There was no change made to those policies.
Okay,
I can also add to that. I believe the reason why they're out here tonight too is because they only wanted him essentially at the government ops meeting to discuss that. So I think more of this is just to be aware that they are going through again this month because they were removed. They were pulled last month because he didn't attend the government ops
So I
to
guess,
answer any questions.
so I guess the question is, do we need to pass these here or not? In their government ops.
this will revert for review and comment.
Yeah.
We go over. If you have any comments on, this committee is supposed to be the, I guess, authority on public works type matters and government ops, so, you know, with the format and filing and.
All right, so does anybody have any discussion that they want to do on Geo 11 or Geo 12?
So yeah, I read through some of them, not in great detail, but I scanned documents and they're pretty standard. Policies and procedures, and I'm sure we're gonna run into that with a lot of these departments. And unless the department has something specific that they want us to address, I don't see us spending our time. There's a lot of other regulatory committees there.
I do have a question, Brian, I don't know if you have the answer or not. These largely reflect the OSHA regulations
Yes.
under the CFR. Does PESH obligate us to follow OSHA guidelines when there are no particular or specific PESH guidelines?
Gosh, and OSHA travel together for the same.
PESH is New York though, right?
Yes.
OSHA is federal.
Well, PESH is government, you know, they govern municipalities, government. Where OSHA cannot.
Right, in New York.
Right.
But I mean, if there's a gap, if you don't have an excavator policy, for example, if PESH doesn't, do they mandate follow OSHA?
Yeah, I don't know, I would assume so, but.
I couldn't find a good answer for that. All right.
Brian, I sit on government ops and I remember this discussion. So, you know, to go back, well, actually tomorrow, when you say that there actually are no changes in the policy, it's format changes, does that literally mean word formatting?
Yes,
There's no.
yeah, they took out, county administrator.
That's actually all the committee wanted to know is what really has changed in this. We wouldn't, you know,
Right.
we didn't have the opportunity to compare old to new. And that's all they wanted to know. So thanks for the detail.
Anybody else? Done?
Yes.
Monday. All right, so anybody, any other questions? All right,
Send them to government ops.
if not, need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
Wait,
Second,
wait,
Wait,
yeah.
oh, wait.
We closed the public hearing.
Oh, that's right, forgot about that. So I guess I need to ask one more time, is there anybody, I know there isn't, anybody who wants to call in 315-294-8051 for the shared service plan public hearing? No, okay, I'm closing. Okay, now can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move it.
Second, the seal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're done.
Planning and
Let's go.
Calling the meeting to order, 6:25. I would use my teacher voice, but I haven't used that in a while. Oh, good. Oh, I could do that.
Come on, let's hear it.
Calling the meeting to order, 6:25. Followed by, everybody sit down. Get out your homework. Everyone's here who needs to be here. All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from October 13th?
Move it. Second, Basile.
Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is a carry. Thank you. All right. We do not have any resolutions tonight, so we're going to go through our reports. And we're going to start with Steve Lynch. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Chair. Sorry I can't be there tonight in person. I'm not really feeling well, and I came home to Zoom in. So I'm glad to be with you tonight. You have my committee report. I've gone into some detail on a number of items. If there's any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.
I just wanted to report out that I've heard from a couple of towns that you've been working with the comprehensive work that you've been doing and your staff, and they are overjoyed with all of your help and have, you know, commended the department to me on several occasions. So thank you for that. And that is proof for here on your report as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I will share that with my staff at my staff meeting tomorrow. We have a very good staff, and I'm very grateful that they're doing good work.
Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Okay, Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, hope you feel better. Okay, up next we have Kelly Kane with employment and training.
Good evening, everybody. I only have a couple things to add to my report. First thing, and I'll be very happy to hear this. So this will be our first mini job fair in conjunction with the Department of Labor. So this will be the first event that the Department of Labor is doing in person. First week of December, we're bringing in D&W Diesel, Leonardi Manufacturing out of Weedsport, and OPWDD, because there's a significant shortage of direct care professionals. So they're coming in to recruit. We're going to advertise, but it's a pretty big thing for us to have 3 employers come in and working with the DOL to do that. So that's pretty big for us. So that's something that we're very excited about. The other things that we've been working on, BOCES has reached out to me to see how they can recruit more folks to get their GED and how they can advertise that they're having GED classes and increase their enrollment in GED. So we are actually going to host GED sessions with BOCES in our office weekly that'll be open to the public, as well as promoting them with our DSS groups that we do serve. So they'll be coming in weekly and we will advertise. They're going to do some marketing and then we'll host them, you know, in our office. We did that years ago and kind of got away from it. So we're going to start that up soon and we're working closely with them. The last thing, working with DSS and also with BOCES on some of the refugees from Ukraine. We have 8 so far that we're serving. They're waiting for their working papers or working card. I'm not sure what they call it. So they can get out there and start working, but we're doing assessments with them, working with translators so we can do employment plans and start their goal in terms of what they want to do. So when their working cards come in, we can help them get back, get into our community and work. And they all want to work and they've been great. The translator has been great and the host that's hosting them, the families have been amazing to work with. So we're doing that and we're working with BOCES on English as a second language to help them if they need that. So we're working together kind of as a team through DSS and BOCES, and it's been a new experience. We've used translators in the past, but not quite to this extent. So it's been a good experience for my staff and also for the folks that are coming in. So that's been really good. It's pretty much all I have that's new and exciting.
Questions? Kelly this evening?
I'm just curious about how your October open house went.
Oh, it went well. I mean, it was a lot of work and planning. I wish we had a better turnout, but I would say it was pretty good. We did have some companies come in, Bernie Boss came in and they're utilizing our services now. So that was kind of the point, is to bring a business in or bring businesses in. And also access to home care. Same thing. They came in and they're utilizing our services now. So we've have, at least 2 employers that have not, been exposed and did get something out of it. And we had job seekers and we had partner agencies come. And so I would say overall it was a success. Thanks. Thank you.
Great. So is the Department of Labor gonna work in shifts, or they all be there? You don't have to answer that. GED. What happens with those that get the GED? At ceremony? Or all different fees may not have been able to finish high school.
Right.
I'm just kind of curious.
Right. I don't believe there is any kind of ceremony or graduation ceremony. There may be, I don't know if there is. I can say with any of the youth that we enroll or help enroll in GED, we give them a $400 incentive gift card for successfully completing their GED. So that's almost like, we will pay you help you with your GED. And the kids are like $400. Okay, I'll enroll. But adults, I don't know. I don't know if BOCES does anything, not to my knowledge, though. It would be a great idea if they did, though, because it's, it's not as easy as it used to be to get your high school equivalency. And kudos to the adults that go back after a lot of years, So thank you. Thank you.
Anything else for Kelly?
Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. Next, we have Michael Miller from CETA. Hello, Michael.
Evening, everyone. So the high-level snapshot update for existing businesses assisted is 45 through October. Our goal for the year is 80. Over just this very last week, and looking forward to close out the year, we anticipate meeting this goal. For entrepreneurs assisted, so far, again, through October, it's 35. The goal for the year is 65, but similar to our existing businesses assisted so far, we're looking to hopefully approach that goal in particular. This is due in large part to the addition of our new small business development specialist, who has been ramping up the activity we have in outreach here. Our other supplemental documents are at the back of your packets there. Some other items to note is CMI and CCIDA have agreed on the LDA agreement in the Aurelius Industrial Park there. Both this expansion project and a hospital oncology project closed this last Friday. Huge wins for the county here, not just from a job development perspective, but also as for the oncology, a much needed resource here in the area. As mentioned in prior meetings, several power projects are being evaluated for consideration to the CCIDA potentially this month, if not going into next month, for the board to consider. Separately, CETA has been working extensively with our partners at Cayuga County, the City of Auburn, Empire State Development, CNY Regional Planning, Center State, as well as some of our other partner counties. And all of this is around Micron's investment in Onondaga County. So we're looking for ways for how this county can participate to potentially land one of those supply chain companies, but to also look for ways that our existing residents may be able to work at Micron. And this is a very long process to be considered. Granted, this is 20 years that Micron's taking a look at. But for us to participate, we've been evaluating with all of our key partners of how do we position ourselves to play a part in that going forward. In other news, CETA, Marine Research in particular, presented in this chamber over the last week or so. The Cayuga County Small Business Grant Program that members of this chamber here today, as well as some of our members online, helped put together. Application started on November 1st. We have the entire detail packaged up on our website here. It started on, again, November 1st. As of today, we have over 30 applications in for the program. So it's been well marketed, and we expect that to continue to increase. Maureen and I presented at the annual New York Farm Bureau meeting on October 12th. And part of our presentation highlighted the importance of ag to Cayuga County in particular, as well as ag businesses that CETA has assisted over the years, ongoing developments and other services that CETA has to offer to truly one of our foundational industries. Going into next week, we'll be presenting at the Ledger Town Board meeting to provide information on what CETA is, what we do in this area, but we're also looking to expand who we're presenting to in all the townships as well as the villages as well, to ensure that CETA is well known, well outside of Auburn. This is a big county, and that territory needs to be covered in full. Lastly here, both Maureen and I will be attending the IDA Training Academy on Thursday of this week here. That's the highlights I have. I am open to any questions. Yes, sir.
In person, Heidi.
That program that we just talked about. Can we have an update at the full ledge meeting? Have an update at the full ledge meeting by area, what applications that we made. How it's going throughout the county.
To piggyback on what you're saying, also, Jim, this is a good point. To remind the legislature to, get a hold of your town clerks, send out the link, ask them to put on the website or town emails, anything that you can do to get. They know the local businesses in their towns or nearby or through other clerks. That's great. I'm encouraged by the 30.
We can certainly provide an update on that next meeting.
I wondered if you could expand for me a little bit with details about the networking and the work you're doing to insert ourselves as players in the Micron.
So I'll provide as much detail as I can without giving up any information that would put our current efforts at risk here, but we're really looking to reach out to a lot of regional players in particular. So Center State CEO is one of the critical players in bringing Micron in, as well as Empire State Development, who we have a longstanding relationship with. And I believe many people in this room are aware of Mr. David Botar out of CNY Regional Planning. He's been in contact with those folks as well. So our team and our growing team here is looking at several tracks of how we may be able to participate. Part of it is attraction for a new company and making sure we have available land to make for shovel readiness. And a lot of the research we're doing right now is what type of company would that look like? What sort of infrastructure is required to support that type of company? How many jobs could it potentially bring? And depending on the area it's in, how could it impact that locale as well? So that's just one area. Another area is on workforce development. Is our current workforce ready for this year? Are we working with our partners just in the county, BOCES, Wells, CCC, of understanding what those future requirements might be? Micron has been providing information of what it is to support them specifically, but as we're looking at it to attract one of the supply chain companies that would service Micron, that's part of the research we're looking at is what do they need in particular. So we're still diving through a lot of this information on that end. And there's other tracks as well. Is we certainly anticipate many residents to be coming into the county as Micron is setting up shop. It's not that far from Wheatsport in particular, just off of 13 there. So it's a very natural landing spot for many employees.
Trish and then we'll do the chair next. Oh, sorry, and then Brian. Not actually on. So, oh, you can, yeah, you can ask questions. Go ahead, I'll just go.
Hopefully that,
Thank you.
sure.
My question was similarly along Heidi's lines of questioning with Micron coming in to the region. As Cayuga County, are we essentially part of the regional effort and kind of following the regional lead on looking at our county and our assets and opportunities? Or will there be meetings specifically within our county, with our county legislators, with our county partners about the opportunities and how we can, just as Cayuga County, not the region, how we can leverage ourselves and our assets to take advantage of this? I just, regional approach is great, but I just remember, and I was telling some of my colleagues about this, back in the day when Destiny USA was coming to the region, it was a huge, huge deal. And compared to Micron, there's no comparison. And I can remember the intensity of excitement around Destiny and the impact it would have. And we had meetings right here in this room with business, with the right partners to talk specifically about how we as a county leverage those opportunities. And I guess I just want to advocate for that, we should be doing a deep dive here on workforce, on housing, on supply chain, and especially on development sites. And I just wanted to ask you where that stands in terms of looking at viable development sites for new businesses, and are we looking at brownfield redevelopment and as part of that site selection process?
This is the area that we're doing a much more focused effort, is understanding the proximity to Micron, what makes the most sense. And I think a lot of people here would understand that setting up a larger company is access to a major roadway is really important, and as well as what sort of infrastructure is currently built out. Is there available water and sewer? What sort of power is out there? And aside from just throughway proximity, how close are you to an airport? So all of those considerations are being evaluated as we're looking at different areas that we believe would be most suitable in its proximity in the White Pine site of Clay. Hopefully that answered that.
Yeah, I just wonder, and this has nothing to do with you, but we've talked about the need for additional sites for years now. And I do think it needs to be a priority. I don't know if there's lists being developed, or obviously you don't want to express public interest in the parts that you're looking to develop it, but I just want to express my support for that, essentially.
Thank you.
And, put some level of, not urgency, but pressure to have that play out in a way that we do have these sites that are identified and secured in some way as Micron moves into the area, so that we can jump and be ready. Haven't been well positioned in the past.
We do acknowledge that. I will say we are moving with a pretty heavy sense of urgency right now on it.
Yeah, just to add to that, just so you know, Trish, the county is very involved working with CEDAR. The day that came out, we formed a committee, including Steve, myself, Shireen, Bobby's on it because of the group, Mike, Dave Botar, Lynn, and we partnered with the city, with Jennifer Haynes, with Jeff and the mayor. We all had a meeting here 2 weeks ago. So we're on top of it. We've been doing it since then. I represented this county, or this legislature, last week over in Syracuse at the open house. Steve and I both went over. We talked to many people over there from Micron, got a lot of good information. We will be sharing it with all of you, but it's only been, I think we've been meeting about 3 or 4 times now, right, Mike?
Believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and we got one coming up next week. We'll be able to fill you in as we go along, but the county is very much on top.
Glad to hear that.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Brian Woodruff?
So I'd like to offer, you guys, if you feel if there's any room, I met with Micron myself. I'm in their supplier channel and their outreach person happens to be a guy that was in my wedding, and I was in his wedding. So it's funny, I called Dave to see if and then I ended up meeting with some executives, and so far, what I was told, I'm the first supplier outside of Syracuse in their portal. So that's huge, because obviously they're gonna have hundreds. So, and we're gonna be possibly doing background checks and drug testing for them as well. So that's a possibility. We're in their portal. We haven't been contacted, we got no bid, but I do have some important people's phone numbers because they have my friend give me that information to the right people. So I was able to contact. So I would like to offer my services as needed.
Jeff and I talked about that at our last meeting. We definitely should be on that. He was gonna get back to you.
He actually was at my house when Jeff was on the street from me. He saw the deck.
Any
Thank
other
you,
questions?
and congrats, by the way.
Let me in. I'm in. Okay, there's thousands of people. Okay, I just happened to get in that day. Okay, I'm in.
Great.
So.
Thanks, Mike. Look forward to updates.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Doug Pierce.
Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna start to sound like a broken record here a little bit, but the weather's been awesome, so we're still able to knock out quite a few projects. I detailed a lot of those in the report itself. A couple things to highlight. The state's been releasing some of the funding, or at least announcing the releasing of some funding. So we did receive 2 more grants to do some work on some farms, one in the Cayuga Lake watershed and one in the Owasso Lake watershed. So that's good for funding coming in. The other thing, we did just wrap up one stream project just late last week for the city of Auburn, going down through Hunter Brook, Standard Woods area. They had some issues out there. So we just finished that up. There'll be some more detailed information in my next report. And then, as Brian mentioned earlier, we're going to start Tollgate Hill Road out there in Moravia Lock to stabilize that tow along with the highway department starting next week. So we're going to keep rocking and rolling as long as the weather agrees with us. So looks good in the long range, except for this weekend. So we'll see what happens on the weekend here and what Monday looks like. But be a good test for some of these projects we just did. But, be glad to take any questions you guys got.
Thanks.
All right, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Karen, and I will join us this evening. So we'll go right to Dan Welsh. Dan, before you begin, I just want to thank you for the invite to your annual organizational meeting. Trish and I actually were both present. That was a really cool event at Eagle Ridge Heritage Center. It was great to see all the things that you've been doing. It's really important to know that when we do, it's budget time, when we do fund our partner agencies, it's great to see what they do with our dollars. And CCE's been doing tremendous things with our money. So I appreciate being invited. Present there. It's great to see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you came and we're there for that, and hopefully more legislators can come next year. Usually sometime we have that sometime late October, early November. Just a few things to highlight, and then one kind of late breaking update. So Frank Clark is our new ag environment sustainability educator. He started with us on October 12th. Frank comes to us with a master's of science degree in soil science from Ohio State University. And he did his bachelor's degree at ESF. So a lot of his work is going to be
Working with farms around nutrient management, best management practices, doing the education piece. And working closely with our partners in soil and water then on the implementation part of that. So he's off to a good start, getting them through some training programs and that sort of thing here in the next couple of months, and he'll be really ready to hit the ground running, I think, first of the year. On October 30th, with the planning department and soil and water was the household hazardous waste event. We had 280 residents come through with all sorts of different things to get properly disposed of. I haven't heard yet how many pounds total of stuff that is, because they got the vendor has to separate it out based on what it is and where it eventually gets disposed of or disposed to. And then just had 3 4-H'ers return from the 4-H Eastern National Horse Roundup at the North American International Livestock Exposition in Louisville, Kentucky. They just got back Sunday after being out there for the week. So Peyton Youngers and Haley McCarthy were on the horse bowl team. Peyton came in first in that whole group, so everybody east of the Mississippi River. And the team for horse bowl was the reserve grand champions, or came in second place. Katie Driscoll came in first individually in hopology, which is a different type of horse knowledge event that I don't fully understand myself, but it gets a little bit more into some of the, I think some of the veterinary stuff, hands-on care for horses. So she came in first, and the state team was third place for that. So that's all I have for tonight. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, is Mr. Clark, is he locally from here, Dan, or has he moved to the area?
So he grew up on Long Island, and his wife's from Central New York. So after he finished up his master's degree, they decided to move back here.
Good, thank you.
I would just like to ask Dan to officially send our congratulations and awe to these young people who placed at that level.
Yeah.
You said east of the Mississippi. It was fun to see them this summer at the 4-H event, and remarkable to hear this news. So I don't think any of us would disagree on sending congratulations and regards. Very proud moment for our county.
I will do that. I appreciate that.
I just wanted to echo what Davey said about the annual meeting. It was really great to hear each of your staff come up and talk about what their sphere is of work. And I just wanted to not lose the thought about having the regional ag team from Cornell that special regional team we invested in through the county. They spoke at the meeting, and it was very clear what value bringing to the whole county for the ag, for the crop and dairy industry. And I think it would be great for everybody to hear what they're doing here, and how our investment is being is impacting the ag industry in the county. So I just wanted to say that was a great event, and I learned a lot from it.
No, thank you, Trish. And I'll work with Chairman Gould on setting up a presentation after we get to the budget and all that good stuff.
Any other questions?
Yep, have a good night.
Okay, no other business to come. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second, Lucille.